Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of the Leaders in Employee Experience podcast, or the LEX podcast. I'm very excited today to have on board Hussein Wehbe. Hussein and I have been LinkedIn friends for a couple of years now. We've not met that often, but I was telling him that I meet him on LinkedIn every day. So for all of you who are watching this clip through LinkedIn, I'm sure many of you know Hussein. Hussein is a senior leader in the transportation space. He's held a couple of CEO roles. And what I like the most about Hussein is his people orientation and the fact that he talks a lot about culture. And this personally for me is something that I find very valuable in a CEO or a business leader when they go beyond the hard metrics of net profit and financial numbers to actually look at the people who are delivering that. So Hussein for me is the embodiment of the people focused CEO. So very excited to have you on board, Hussein.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine.
So this will be a very interesting discussion because we are going to look at employee experience, which is the whole focus in the LEX series, through the eyes of a CEO. And not just a CEO, but someone who's really nailed customer experience. And employee experience as a concept is relatively new. We are learning a lot still from customer experience. And the way we define employee experience at VSOAR is that employee experience is the intersection of culture, process, and technology. And for great experience, an organization must meet the minimum standards in all three of them. So if you have great technologies and great processes, but not a great culture, I'm sorry, you won't be able to have great employee experience. And I'm sure not necessarily a framework like that, Hussein, but is that very similar, something that you've used in your career in terms of managing customer experience?
Of course, definitely. Look, I was never born as a CEO. I was an employee. I've been always an employee. I had bosses above me. I was part of great cultures. Sometimes I was part of some cultures that need some work because I cannot say toxic. Toxic is generalizing. However, employee experience is very important. Today, if your employees are not happy, they will not perform. They can perform at the minimum level, but they will not give all their potential. And this is where you will be losing opportunities. You'll be losing a lot of productivity if their experience with the company itself is not good. So you don't want an employee to be sitting and thinking of when I will leave, when I will apply for a new job, when will they get back to me with a new offer from another company. This is very unhealthy, but unfortunately, it is extremely popular today in almost most of the companies.
Right. And we've actually got data to back that up. So there is research in the US which shows the cost of disengagement. And the cost of disengagement is what people themselves say in a survey as to how much in a normal day they are expected to work, but they're actually not working.
Exactly.
And that costs the US economy $500 billion per year. And I'm not talking about resignation, positions remaining vacant, the cost of hiring, the cost of ramp up. I'm talking about people who are there as employees who are not giving their 100% because they choose not to give 100%. And Hussein, what you are talking about is people going above 100% to 120, 130%. So
look, I went into 1000% in some of my jobs because I was so much happy with the culture. I never went to work at that time. I was going to a family. So this is where your motivation takes you to a level that you feel you're an owner of the company. And this is very rare. But if you find such a company, embrace it and retire there.
Or work towards creating such a culture. If you don't.
Exactly, 100%. 100%.
Right. So Hussein, you've been in people intensive businesses like transportation, delivery, UPS, Aramex, large, huge organizations. How important are people in your opinion in delivering business success?
Look, in every company you have a P&L, and the P&L has all the financial terms, and one of them is called assets. For me, assets is not the car, it's not the building, it's not anything which is tangible. Your real assets is your human capital, your people. So that's why without the right people in the organization, there is no profitability, there is no proper production, and there is no success and growth. So people, they come number one. But the challenge is sometimes if you have the right tools to keep those people. If you are a CEO, I'll be very transparent here because people need to know. Sometimes the CEO falls in the trap of not being able to maybe make a big difference when it comes to people, because that CEO will have some restrictions from the board, from the owners, if it's a family business. And then employees will blame the CEO always on, you were not able to do that. This is not a situation when you have a people-centric CEO who wants to make a change, who wants to invest in people, but he or she will get blocked by some restrictions, some spending restrictions, and so on. So this is something CEOs don't speak about. But I can tell you, the worst thing ever is to be a CEO and to never be able to achieve your people strategy or people plan just because you have someone somewhere who's not allowing you to do that, which means you are a CEO with less power. And this is very dangerous when you have a very passionate CEO who's people oriented, be it in good days, if you want to reward people, or be it in bad days, if you want to save people. And I've seen that when you want to save people and you cannot do it, or when you reward people and you cannot do it, all your passion is going to go down the drain.
No, absolutely. Unfortunately, we live in a world with constraints. So we need to look at that. But it's great to hear from you that you look at the P&L beyond the numbers that get kind of stated there. Coming on to our kind of earlier discussion about customers and people, the connect. So how do you see customer experience being linked to employee experience? Because obviously the last mile is delivered by the employee. The guy who goes with the packet is the representative of the company.
Look, it backfires on two ways. If the employee is not happy, it's going to backfire on the service. It's going to backfire on the sales. Because today when you go to a shop and you ask for a product and the product is not available, if that employee really cares about the company, he or she will not tell you, sorry, sir, we don't have it. They will take the extra mile and check in the system and tell you, you know what, we may have that product in another branch, because they want to gain you as a client. So this is where the extra mile starts with motivated employees. Even it affects a lot your sales figures and the sales performance of frontliners. Frontliner is not only a delivery person. Maybe a courier, a delivery courier can also deliver a parcel and notice that that company is selling using another shipping company with maybe another package on the counter with another brand, and he or she also can ask that secretary, oh, why you're using our competition? Why don't you use us for that as well? So that extra mile really comes when the employee experience is excellent. They will feel the high sense of belonging, and then it will affect you positively on the sales and of course on the service levels as well. So they will give from their heart to anything which is related to customer experience and cross-selling or upselling.
Excellent. So there is a direct financial connection between
100%.
what you provide as employee experience and what it could result in customer experience.
And by the way, if you do a survey, not a survey, a calculation, how much lost sales you're missing because that unhappy employee is not upselling and cross-selling, it's going to be massive. It's going to be a shocking number, I can assure you.
No, I'm absolutely sure, because there's this concept in psychology which is called presenteeism, which is the opposite of absenteeism. The difference is the person is present but not contributing the way they should be contributing.
Let me tell you something which is very, very taboo, by the way. And I've heard this from a lot of employees in different companies. An employee will tell you, why should I give extra to my company if the company isn't taking care of me? If they're not promoting me or giving an increment, why should I give them my extra effort? And this is a very risky statement, whereby I agree with the employee. I agree. If the employee is not taken care of, why he or she should take the extra mile? I think it's a win-win situation. When you take care of them, they will take care of your business. And these are the very popular sayings that when you take care of your employees, they will take care of the clients, which is very much accurate and correct.
And what can employee experience learn from customer experience? Because that's something that is a little bit more mature than employee experience. So if you go back into your own kind of career and look at how you used to provide great customer experience, what were some of the key themes that you can distill so that we can start applying them on employee experience?
The most important factor of a customer experience is to be available for the client. People, of course, you will have technologies and everything, but people want you to be there when they need you. If it's an automated process for a delivery performance, for example, it's fine. The client will be happy. But in every type of business, you will have problems. And the real experience happens mostly from a problem and not from a successful delivery or a successful thing. When things go wrong, this is where it's your opportunity to turn that problem into opportunity and let the client say, wow, I had a great experience with this company. Because everybody will take you for granted when you do a good service. They expect this from you as a minimum. But when things go wrong, trust me, I used to love receiving complaints. Myself, I was on a C level, and I used to receive, not everything, but the critical ones, they used to come to me. I used to handle them. I used to speak to the clients because there's always an opportunity here to turn it into a potential positive case, and then the client will come back again and again. Same thing with the employee. If he or she are happy, they will stay with you for a longer time. So the stickiness is there. So a client will stay with you without looking outside for another competitor, and an employee will stay with you without looking at another employer. So in principle, it's the same thing. You're dealing with humans, be it a customer or an employee. It's a human experience, I can call it.
Some people believe that technology is the solution to employee experience.
It is an enabler.
Can it ever?
Of course not. It's an enabler. People want to speak to people. It's always an edge to edge, the human to human. But yes, it's good when you inject here the technology to ride on the human factor. It gives you perfection. It reduces maybe the overheads. It improves the speed of processing whatever you're going to process, but people will always need to speak. If things are okay, they don't want to speak to a human. But again, as I told you, when things go wrong and nobody is perfect, they will need a human. And that human should be very much qualified and motivated to make sure to handle the case perfectly well, so that you will not lose the business, you will not lose the reputation of your company because of whatever went wrong.
Very interesting thoughts. Let's move to the next part, which is about the different types of employees, right? So when we kind of come out with products, when we come out with consulting value propositions, even this whole discussion about remote work and hybrid work and all of that, there's a very large chunk of employees, I would say the overwhelming majority, which are what we call deskless. They don't sit behind a desk and work. They're out in the field. They are your food delivery guys. They are your courier delivery guys. They are the nurses in the hospitals. These are people who are not at the desk. And yet most of the management effort goes towards managing people who are based in offices. And I'm sure you've led teams which are diversified, they are distributed. How can we get the most out of these distributed deskless employees?
That's a very good question, because yes, the frontliners usually and the people on the ground. If you talk about delivery or if you talk about the retail, you have thousands of retail people on front lines, usually with big groups. How many times the CEO goes down on the ground, passes through those shops, greets them, checks on them. Even if he wants to do a mystery shopper, he or she, it's okay. But show them your face and show them that they're part of the organization. It is very rare. I can tell you, it's extremely rare. What really can make a difference here, and I always call them the field CEOs, who stay on the ground with their people. By the way, a CEO should be also a deskless. Maybe I come from a generation with a lot of friends like me. We hate to stay in the office. We hate to click mouses and go through Excel sheets. Our real work is in the field with our people and with our clients. This is where the real executive role should be, while of course having your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the office to balance between staying in the office and going into the field. Today, it's never about sitting and just giving millions of conference calls and waste of time meetings that are not required. It's very important to be in the field. When you are in the field and you lead in the field by example, your people will look up at you and they will follow you. And they will be more motivated to be faster than you. I used to always tell my colleagues who used to work with me, if you want really to succeed and I give you 5 stars, you have to be faster than me, although I may be 10 times busier than many of you. So in principle, you have to have always a direct line with them somehow. In the delivery industry, you should meet the couriers, the delivery couriers, at least once every 2 or 3 months. You do for them a breakfast. You give them an update about what's happening in the company because they don't have access. They will not read the emails and the circulars. So if not the CEO, somebody from the executive management can do that every 2 or 3 months, keep them engaged, keep them updated, motivate them, tell them what are the areas of improvement, what is the performance of the company. I think this will make a very big difference in breaking those layers, because what kills really a corporate culture are those thick layers and not the transparent layers. Build transparent layers in your organization, and trust me, you'll have the best company in the world.
Amazing thoughts. Like, I can't imagine too many companies which would go down to the last kind of face to the customer and try to explain to them how their business performance has been. And it's great because when you start doing that, you connect the whole dots for all your employees and explain to them what is their contribution to the business and how they come in.
Yeah. Can I give you an example?
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing which I noticed, which is very good, in my first job and the first company I joined, and people still maybe hopefully remember this, sometimes we used to have a lot of complaints about attitude of maybe sometimes, because, I feel that the couriers, they are very much tired in the field. You cannot blame them for being tired. They are the heroes. They just do a lot of hard work. So sometimes, they're human beings. They face some stress and tension, and this may reflect negatively with the client. So the client thinks that they were maybe somehow arrogant with them. So there is no training that really can change that. So I used to decide on, I capture all the complaints that used to come and then read them and then understand what is the real problem with those field heroes. And then we used to do maybe every couple of months a breakfast on Friday, when Friday was a weekend here, and gather them all. We have breakfast, and then I go to stage and I tell them that these are the common problems that are happening today in our operations. So the way to fix it is 1, 2, 3, 4. And I take their commitment at the end of the meeting that, okay, many of you did that. I understand your pain and stress. However, we need to balance also to make sure that the clients are happy. When you do this, it will stick in their minds, and trust me, they will not be afraid from you to do it again. They are more embarrassed not to disappoint you as a leader. And this is where empathetic leader happens. While, of course, you have to be straight to the point, while this is something which is non-negotiable, but you need to balance between why is it happening and how we can emotionally fix that problem.
Amazing. So that brings us to the next category, not just the deskless employees, but the wider ecosystem of contracted employees. A lot of companies today don't necessarily have everyone on their own payroll. I once used to work for a telecom company. It was at that point the world's largest startup. We had 1,500 employees on our payroll, but we were serviced by 40,000 people, and all of them were outsourced. So with gig workers coming in, with contracting, the way organizations want to move around labor laws, this whole component of contracted workforce is becoming an important and a larger part of the ecosystem. How do we engage these contracted employees? How do we get the most buy-in from them? How do we win their hearts and minds?
Very simple. Treat them as if they are full-time employees of yours. Minus, of course, the benefits that you usually give. They are part of your organization. The moment you sign the contract and they join your premises, they are your brand ambassadors. So there's no reason to treat them differently, because in the end, they are facing the same customer, which a full-time employee is doing. I've seen this in a lot of companies. I mean, especially in our industry, most of your staff sometimes are contracted. Okay, you have problems which you cannot really sometimes fix because the contractor is having, but the staff will not understand that it's not you, it's the contractor. Sometimes problems happen that are out of hand. However, you try as much as you can to treat them in normal conditions as any other employee. You train them, you award them, you reward them, you appreciate them. In the end, they're doing the same job. It's just the status is different, which for me is nothing.
Right. And this is something that is going to become bigger and bigger as time moves on. People have multiple jobs, and you could be working in 3 different companies for yourself, not for one employer.
Yes. That
kind of provides a segue into the next segment, which is about culture. And I have seen you, Hussein, talking very passionately about culture on social media. So, and culture is one of our three pillars when it comes to employee experience. So obviously you need to have great processes. You shouldn't be asking a person to sign 1,000 forms or do the same things over and over again. And you should enable that through technology so that it looks slick and it feels nice and it's easy to use. But obviously the binding glue here is the culture. So what's your suggestion to organizations that are trying to build a culture or that's trying to change their culture? I'm sure you've done it a few times over in your career already. How do you approach this whole thing about organizational culture?
Look, people, when I speak about culture, some of them think that I'm, a perfectionist, or this guy is just talking things that are not doable. I insist, because I worked in different cultures. I've seen the best culture ever. I've seen other cultures that need improvement. So I compared between both. And then I was able to come up with what's the real balance between what's the real balance for a perfect culture. It's not that culture that you're just very nice with everyone and, cakes and milkshakes and parties and popcorn. No, it can be a mix from this, which is a very good working environment, a healthy working environment, no toxic environment, plus a high performance based culture. So if you want people to be happy, they have to perform. When you give them all the tools and a great culture and a great working environment and zero bureaucracy and empowerment and the way you treat them is in the same way you treat them if you see them the afternoon in a supermarket, I think this is where you start building a great culture. Of course, the red line here is performance. You cannot be happy and eat popcorn and enjoy and take leaves as much as you can and work from anywhere and then you don't deliver. I'm a very tough person when it comes to deliverables and performance. However, if an employee is delivering and performing, trust me, I turn a blind eye on other basic things. I've always told employees, I don't want to see you in the office if you are performing. I don't care if you come to the office or no. As long as you're getting your targets, your numbers, your clients are happy, it's okay. I hated to have the attendance system, by the way. I never had an attendance system. You don't need that. People can perform from anywhere, especially working moms. I never had a mom who came to HR or to me and said, I want to take time off because I want to take care of my kids. We come and tell her, oh no, you've taken 3 hours this week already. This should never happen. And this needs a bit of change in mindset. The rigid style of managing companies should be gone. Nobody wants it. Even if you think that this is part of compliance, part of governance. No, it's not. This is not compliance. This is more of making it tough and rough on people. And that same leader, if he was or she was a CEO or an MD or whatever it is, if they accept to be treated like this by whoever is above them when they were juniors, then I would accept that. But definitely they will not. So it's not a matter of when you get higher titles, you start inflating your the way you deal with employees and just forgetting from where you started. And this is maybe how we grew, because we faced all the pains when we were juniors. And when we grew, we don't want our people to face the same thing. You cannot really tolerate to see somebody facing the same thing you did. Some people think that we are loose if you have a very open culture. Oh, it's a very loose culture. No, it's not. It's not. It's a flexible culture. There's a big difference between loose and flexible. I can speak till tomorrow about this, so that's what I give you today.
And again, a lot of us in HR or in traditional organizations have this whole fascination with policy. Right? We would write 18-page policies and ensure everyone follows that, without ever asking the employee what they feel or what they want.
Yeah.
Or worse still, go into Google, download a document which is a template from maybe a university written in 1965 and still use it. So how do you kind of look at this policy compliance mindset? And so that's one that I want to talk about. But also on the other side of performance, because you refer to the fact that you're a very demanding manager. How do you deal with people who meet all their targets or exceed all the targets, but create toxicity at the workplace? And there are people like that who are always there in all organizations.
Look, numbers are only numbers. They come and go. But I always say that the mental wellness of people, the dignity of people is you can never compensate it. So I will never keep anyone at the company who's spreading toxic vibes, because this will affect If he or she are performing, it will affect 100 others negatively. I cannot tolerate this at all. I've worked a lot with toxic people. I was a bit patient. I try to change them. I try to tell them that what you're doing is not correct. It's against our company culture. If they keep doing that, I think, as I always say, a beautiful farewell party is the best thing you can do for them. But sometimes because people think that if I'm delivering numbers, I can do everything. No. In fact, when you're performing and delivering numbers, you have to contribute positively to the culture of the company and let others follow you. Otherwise, there's no place.
And what do you think of fascination to policies that organizations?
Policies are important. Look, a policy is very important. It's like the law in any country. A policy is always, as they call it, where the procedures are there to control the way we operate in any company, to put really, to manage things in a balanced way. However, there is always a room for breaking those policies as long as they are not critical policies. I'll give you an example. Sometimes you may need, for example, to retain a very high employee, very good employee. And the policy says you cannot increase his or her salary by 12%. But if that person is very super, and if the CEO or whoever is the decision maker is really having the courage and the empowerment to give a bit extra, yes, why not? This is not called breaking the policy. This is called being a bit flexible due to a business case, a specific business case. So, of course, there's always, I've done it in my career a lot, but of course, without critical things, policies should be respected by employees, because you as a leader, when you respect the policy, you lead by example and everybody else will do. So policies are important. We have to respect them, especially when they come to compliance and corporate governance. However, the simple ones, which may be written 20 years back and the world have changed, but these policies are still outdated, then this is where you can be a bit flexible by giving exceptions. And I say exceptions based on case-to-case basis. Otherwise, we need to write another set of policies that really matches the new era, which is working from anywhere, which is time off, which is paying more bonuses, which is having more incentives rather than a total salary and so on.
And you're not a big fan of writing policies like do the right thing, and that's the end of the policy.
Look, I can write for you 100 policies, but I can make those policies very flexible. Again, everything should be flexible because the world is changing. The way we operate and work, the customer experience, their customer expectations are changing. A policy sometimes may block you from getting business.
So we are
there are some things that you can. Sorry, there are some things that you can. Structure, yes.
Yeah, we're talking about a structure that guides us, but that shouldn't kind of blindfold us or tie our hands down.
100%. So violating a policy is not called violating. I may call it more of, just giving an exception here. Unless it is compliance or something really critical, then this is never accepted. And I personally will never accept.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So moving on to the next part, which is about, we talked about different people being different. The mom who needs to take care of the child and wants to start working at a different time, or the employee who has to teach his son or daughter in the evening, who needs to leave at a particular time. And if we have to keep all of this into account, we are talking then about personalized experiences, which is very difficult. HR is never meant or was never created to provide personalization. HR was meant to create a one-size-fits-all so that the bureaucracy could manage the complexity of large organizations. And then we are talking about personalization, which obviously, I don't know how far it has gone on the customer experience side, but how do you see the role of personalization and the technology that enables that kind of personalization?
Look, when we talk about personalization, first we have to kill the discrimination. And I've seen in a lot of companies, and not necessarily the ones I worked for, HRs, some of them, some only, because it's not a generalizing. Some of them, if let's say a mom comes and tells them, I want to take a time off because I have something. If the HR likes that person, if she or he will have a good relation, they will give it. So there's nothing in the book that's saying no. But if she doesn't or he doesn't like her, they will block it, which is very wrong. I've seen that. I've seen it sometimes, which is a horrible thing. And if you know about it, you have to step in, because this is really very toxic to the corporate culture. I understand that sometimes you cannot give exceptions to everybody. So better not to be embarrassed by giving exceptions to some and to some not. Always have when you write a policy, give 2 or 3 possible alternative options that are there, so that people will not feel that we're breaking the policy. First you say no, then you say, okay, you can take 2 hours. Third, you can say, okay, you can go home. But again, certain things should not have a policy. Certain things really should not be documented in that way, especially when it comes to the something which is very human, something related to families and all these things. I mean, why should I deduct from an employee 3 hours from his or her salary because they are going to attend the graduation of their child? It doesn't make sense. I used to tell them, take the whole day off. And if we need you, we will call you. So I shouldn't be flagged as someone who's violating the policy. I will not accept anyone to come and tell me, saying you broke the policy. And if they will ask you, you know what, you did this for this person, you will do for everybody. Okay, but not everybody is going to go at the same time.
Yes.
So the company is not going to be empty today. This common sense will help always to challenge those cultures. And that's how I build a new culture. Tomorrow, any company, if I set up a company or work in a company which needs a new culture, I have the structure in my mind by taking the very structured and solid policies while making them completely different than before in a flexible manner that allows proper performance, proper respect to what you expect from the employees, and of course giving them sometimes the freedom not to be choked.
Yeah, and I think that flexibility and freedom is very important because it gives the choice to the employees. You may choose to take it, I may choose to not take it, but at least we've been given an option. And that's a...
And an abuser always can be flagged. An abuser can always be flagged as separately and individually that you are abusing. We told you that you can take unlimited days of leave. You cannot just go for 6 months and not come back. So people always, again, they know how to balance. And rarely you will find people abusing because they will say if we abuse, they will cancel the whole thing for everyone.
Which is what happens as a knee-jerk reaction. You see one person wearing ripped jeans to work, and then you write the whole dress code policy eliminating jeans at the workplace.
Exactly.
So yeah, this kind of small number of people who are not using common sense shouldn't be used as a pretext for all of this. In terms of technology, how do you see technology changing the way people do things at work?
Today, before technology was very essential for clients and customers. Today, it's extremely important for employee experience. By having an internal technology that allows employees from requesting for, let's say, a salary certificate into getting an update, into getting an appreciation and a token, for example, through that app or something. This is today very important. Everybody is connected online. They're sitting on their mobile. People are on LinkedIn during working hours, and it's fine. I used to my days be on LinkedIn, share content, connect people. So building an internal, I call it an intranet, through very advanced technologies that engages employees internally and allows them also not only to speak work and to engage and know each other is extremely important. So communicating with people, and there are certain technologies today that have maybe AI and predictive technologies to predict things about employees. And this is where you can step in and be proactive in avoiding them a burnout, and look, there's a lot. We can talk till tomorrow about technology, but I think it's very important. Today, it's extremely important.
Yeah. And this predictive analytics and this personalized experience is pretty much at the heart of what we are trying to do as a technology.
Oh, excellent.
Well.
By the way, whoever is watching this, we did not agree on this. This is not a planned thing. I just said it, and coincidentally, you said about this.
Yes. So this is, but again, the good thing is we are at least on the same wavelength when it comes to thought. So the whole process of kind of looking at predictive analytics using AI, the whole concept of putting convenience through a mobile phone, I would say these are basics. We have this as a consumer, and we don't even question it. We take it all for granted. Like you get your stuff delivered on Amazon, or you get your stuff delivered through things in a matter of hours. Why should it take your organization 7 times that much of time to give you the same thing? So it's also the expectations that are being set within us as consumers that we now start expecting as employees as well. So
look, every company should have an app. Every company literally should have an app, literally an app that includes everything. I don't think I've seen something today which is called an XYZ app. No, you have, the I'm not going to mention names now because you will take a free advertisement for someone. But again, you have those suppliers for those. I believe every company should have, like a consumer app, an employee experience app, an EX app branded with their name. So I open it, I can, okay, I hate attendance, what do you call it, meters, but if they have attendance, they can put it there. You check in, you check out, you apply for the leave, you see your salary, you apply for a loan, you apply for a advance payment. You have the option to complain about things which are internally without any retaliation. If you're burned out, you can go and vet for somebody there. It can be a one-stop shop app where people will spend most of their time on it. And really, it will increase and improve productivity. Plus, of course, connecting with others at other companies. And this will be very helpful for the field people, which you spoke about. They are the non-desk people. So keep them engaged through technology, and an app is an amazing thing to do.
Final question. What should we watch out for as roadblocks that can prevent us from reaching our goals of providing great experience?
Having toxic people in the organization. It's all about having the wrong people. Whatever you do, benefits and technology and meeting rooms and fun rooms and anything. If you have the wrong management and the wrong leadership, the arrogant, toxic, and non-flexible leadership, you're not going to do anything. Trust me. You're going to just invest in tools and technologies and everything, and it will all go down the drain. Nobody is going to enjoy that. Nobody wants to utilize that. Always focus on building a proper leadership team. I've worked with amazing leaders. I can mention them by names. And tell me, if I was supposed to operate from the worst office in the world, I was happy to do that because I was working with great people and great leadership. So it's all about having the right leadership first, and then everything below it will come as a beautiful accessory. This is my personal opinion.
Something that I quite agree with.
Yeah.
So wonderful. Thank you so much, Hussein, for coming on the show. We'll put this out on LinkedIn, and we will obviously get some questions. If we have something very specific that requires your response, we will pass that on to you. And
of course,
you can start responding to those as well. But it was amazing having you on the show. Learned a lot from you. Learned a lot from you in terms of how a CEO would run their organization and how they see culture and how they see performance and how important it is to weed out toxicity before you start creating any kind of a great experience.
Exactly. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed your questions. Were very valid. And I think all the answers that we gave will allow maybe everyone to at least know how to build the foundation of any corporate culture.
Great. Thank you so much.